So, time for another He-Man Conundrum, and this time I'm looking at the new adventures of He-Man. So, why exactly are Primus and Denebria at war? Now, that seems like a bit of a dumb question, because Flogg and the mutants keep trying to conquer Primus. Okay, sure. But why? So, just to set things straight, Flogg is the commander of the mutant army and plans to conquer and rule Primus. That seems pretty straightforward, and I'm sure the writers of the new adventures never gave it more thought than that. So, why don't the Primus just let the mutants live on their planet? Exactly. Now, forgetting for a minute that Flogg has clearly chosen violence, there's a few things about the whole Primus versus Denebria thing which doesn't quite add up. Namely, these are A, the populations of both planets, B, the state of both planets, C, how the Primus and Denebrians treat each other, and D, the characters of both the Primans and Flogg specifically. So let's tackle A first. So how many people are on each planet to begin with? Now, if you guessed Primus was supposed to be just the Earth of the future, you'd think it would have an equal or larger population than it has now. But that's clearly not the case. In many early New Adventures episodes, mutants got very close to defeating the Primans, and we even saw them attempt a planetary evacuation. Let me repeat that. A planetary evacuation. The implication there is obviously that somehow Primus has enough ships to evacuate the whole population of the entire planet. And then there's the whole thing of how many population centers are there on Primus to begin with. There's the underground city of Honor, Leviton, Ceres, and then a couple of random villages. I'm not convinced Primus has a population even close to 1 million. My guess would be no more than 500,000 at the most. The same really goes for Denebria. Now, we don't know the sizes of the two planets, but we'll assume they're the same size. There's really only 3 clear population centers ever mentioned on the show: Gorn City, Moon Nordor, and the Quagmire Swamp. And if anything, I'd say Denebria's population can't be more than half of that of Primus. So, that being said, let's talk about the state of these planets. Because Primus is so sparsely populated, most of the planet is untouched nature and very picturesque. There is a desert in there definitely, but that's about as rough as it gets. Denebria, by comparison, is a dump. But it's not like the Denebrians seem to mind. Hell, Slushhead is ecstatic every time they go to the Quagmire Swamp, for instance. Now, it is true that Gorn City has a lot more crime than Primus, but they also have a sheriff. In fact, in one episode, they even made a Priman a sheriff. So that leads us to the next big problem. If the Primans and Denebrians are at war, then why are the Primans allowed to just come and go on Denebria whenever they feel like it? You'd think there'd be way more animosity there. I guess I should also point out at this point that while Flogg is the commander of the mutant army, he doesn't seem to be the leader of the mutants more broadly. Denebria has a very loose sense of government. Only Gorn City has an elected official, which is the mayor. Which kind of begs the question of who is Flogg really fighting for anyway? So basically, points A through C seem to indicate that there should definitely be enough room on Primus for the mutants to live peacefully, but also, considering these two sides are at war, they don't really act like it whenever Flogg's not around. Which finally brings us to another point which opens up some interesting questions. In quite a few episodes, it's shown that Primans will welcome visitors from other planets. But the first episode indicates that Primus' shield has stood for centuries. You don't put up a planetary shield unless you plan to keep people out. So this feels a little out of character for the Primans, who are displayed usually as being friendly, welcoming, and enlightened, except when it comes to the mutants. I kinda like the sort of dark implication here that the Primans might actually be really racist, and that's why they won't allow the mutants on the planet, but this is just conjecture. There really isn't enough solid evidence to prove this theory. Also, Flogg's character presents a lot of other odd problems. Firstly, yes, Flogg can be underhanded and sneaky, but normally he acts as a responsible military leader. He's not willing to fight until the last man to conquer Primus. He will back off when his attack fails. Also, despite being at war, Flogg is careful not to anger other outside powers, like the Galactic Council. To me, it does seem like Flogg wants genuine legal rule over Primus. This seems to be his ultimate goal on the show. When, in the Ultimate Challenge, he got very close to winning, he wasn't just putting Cebrian in chains, he wanted him to sign a contract for a transition of power. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to push the narrative that Flog is somehow noble, but he isn't fully evil either. He still has a very low opinion of the Primus, and he can be petty and merciless, but he does conduct the war on Primus with some degree of honor. So what can we really deduce from all of this? I have a couple of ideas. Theory 1, there's the possibility that Primus really do have a grudge against the mutants, and that's why they won't allow them to live peacefully on Primus. Or Theory 2, Denebrians themselves don't really care about the war, and it's mostly about Flog wanting glory for himself, but in a way that doesn't make him look like a bad guy. Both of these theories have their problems. I kind of want to champion Theory 1, but the major hiccup there is that the mutants don't seem too bothered about the war. Theory 2, on the other hand, has the problem of, if this is really just Flog acting out on his own, why won't the Primus just let the rest of the mutants on the planet? Also, Flog isn't fighting for some nobler cause, like giving the mutants a better place to live, because the mutants don't really seem bothered by their own planet. It could be that Denebria became that way because of the mutants' lifestyle, and that's why the Primus won't let them come to their planet. Again, that would actually make the Primus shield a bit more justified, even if it seems like a bit of a dick move. So there we go. Let me know what you think about the Primus War in the comments. Until next time, I have the power, so can you.